The year was 1999. The West Wing debuted on NBC, popularizing the intricately scripted walk and talk style of dramatic television filmmaking, while SpongeBob SquarePants debuted on Nickelodeon, popularizing the I'm a head out and dabbing Squidward memes. And just as Ally McBeal took home the award for Outstanding Comedy Series at the 51st Emmy Awards, and Helen Clark became the first female Prime Minister of New Zealand, a film about female friendship blossoming even in the darkest of circumstances debuted in theaters. But Rian never saw it. Until now. This is Movies I Missed, 1999, Episode 9, Girl Interrupted.
I'm Jesse Munoz.
And I'm Ryan Miller.
And this is Movies I Missed, the year 1999, episode number 9. Today we're going to be talking about Girl Interrupted, released December 21st, 1999, with a running time of 2 hours and 7 minutes.
I do want to give a warning. We will be discussing all aspects of this movie, so be advised that includes spoilers.
Girl Interrupted is a psychological drama based on Susan Kazan's memoir. The film follows Susan in the late 60s, who was admitted to a psychiatric hospital after a suicide attempt. There she meets a group of troubled young women, including the unstable Lisa. The picture explores their struggle with mental illness, relationships, and the search for self-identity. Through her journey, Susan begins to understand herself and what it means to be truly crazy.
Shouldn't my parents...
You have to sign them, Miss Kaysen. You're over 18. This is your decision.
I didn't try to kill myself.
That's the kind of thing you talk about in therapy, honey. Not here.
Miss Kaysen, you have the distinction of being the only senior at Springbrook not going on to college. May I ask what you plan to do?
I plan to write.
Or what do you plan to do?
Look, I'm not going to burn my bra or drop acid or go march on Washington. I don't want to end up like my mother.
Women today have more choices than that.
No, they don't.
And here? You forgot one, dear. Here.
Oh.
Well, speaking for Dr. Wick and myself, welcome to Claymore, Susanna.
Ryan, this is your choice as we explore Girl Interrupted, a movie I've never seen, a movie that you haven't seen. What kind of brought you to this one?
Well, first, I just want to make a quick correction. It's Susanna, not Susan.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Susanna right there in Britain there, and I kept saying Suzanne.
I'm sure she doesn't mind too much.
Yeah.
Well, I will be completely honest. I got this movie confused with something else.
Oh, okay.
I had never seen it before.
Okay.
But it came out the same year as Boys Don't Cry.
Okay. Yeah.
And I had never seen either and got that confused with this. And so for the first couple minutes, I was waiting for what's her name from $1 Million Baby to show up.
Yeah, what's her name? Gosh, why can't I think of her name right now? She's the next Karate Kid.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hilary Swank.
Hilary Swank, thank you. Yes.
Yeah. So it's like I knew about Girl Interrupted, but I got it confused. And either way, I mean, Angelina Jolie won an Oscar for this movie for Best Supporting Actress. And it's like, at least when it came out, I think was a pretty well-regarded movie. I feel like this is one of these ones that people really liked and for various reasons has been, re-evaluated over the years. Yeah, so I'm in a weird position where I'm like, I did want to see this, but it's not exactly
the one you wanted to see
that I thought I was going to watch.
The only thing that I really knew about this was I knew it starred Winona Ryder, and I knew Angelina Jolie was in the movie. That was literally all I knew. So anytime anyone showed up, Brittany Murphy, Elizabeth Moss, Jared Leto, Whoopi Goldberg, or the fact that it was even directed by James Mangold, everything was like a surprise as I was watching it because I didn't look anything up. Like, I kind of want to go in blank when I watch these movies, as blank as I can be. And the only thing that I had on my mind was that picture, which is the poster of her like close
up of her face.
Yeah, that's kind of like stuck out to me throughout the years. No idea really what the movie was about. I knew it was like something to do with like crazy people vaguely, but that was literally about it. So as I'm watching it and it's like James Mangold, director, I'm like, what? James Mangold directed this? And then, like I said, the different actors that would pop up and like Whoopi's in this. Like, oh, I really enjoy 90s Whoopi. So that was pretty fun.
What about Jeffrey Tambor? He's an actor where I feel like I mostly know him for comedy stuff. Mm-hmm. And so when he pops up in something like this, where there's like a mild little hint of humor to his character and how he's sort of clueless, but I mean, it's a serious movie and it's, you know, meant to be taken seriously, but I'm just like, I see him and I just see George Bluth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like failing that, the guy, like the goofy, uptight guy sidekick character from Hellboy.
Yeah. I mean, definitely Arrested Development is what I think of. I don't even know if he's still acting anymore. I know he got canceled for sexual stuff a while back, but I have no like real connection to him. I didn't watch like the Larry Sanders Show, so I didn't know him from that. It wasn't until Arrested Development, I think, where I kind of figured out who he was. So when you go back and watch this kind of stuff, I don't know if I expected him to be funny, but yeah, it was interesting to see him pop up. It was, I think that's kind of how I felt whenever someone popped up. Like Jared Leto, I saw was in the credits right away, and I'm like, was Jared Leto in this movie?
Yeah, or like when Elizabeth Moss pops up, like the first time I ever heard of or saw her that I was aware of was Mad Men, where I feel like she got like pretty well known from that. Yeah. I almost would have guessed like she was she'd been in like 2 or 3 little things and then was on Mad Men, but I quickly looked at her IMDb and she was acting as far back as
1990.
It was like sometime in the 80s. She was in Suburban Commando with Hulk Hogan.
Oh, wow.
As like a kid.
Hilarious.
And she was in like a ton of stuff. But like even looking through her filmography, it's not until recently that there's a bunch of like movies that I recognize. Like she was in The Invisible Man a couple years ago, which I loved. Yeah. But it feels like the bigger things for her have been like Mad Men and The Handmaid's Tale, which is TV.
Sure. Right. A lot of these people you'll find were working for a long time before you kind of realized who they actually were. But yeah, it takes something of a hit. And it's like she's the star of this. She's barely in it. And you don't even really recognize her because half of her face is burned throughout. Yeah,
I mean, I did recognize her right away, but but then there's like Kurtwood Smith, who's right in the beginning. And I was expecting him to be throughout the movie. Nope, he's in that one scene in the opening.
Yeah, so did I. I was excited to see Red Foreman show up, but in a very different role than the role that I know him. I know there's like 2 roles that I think of when I think of Kurtwood Smith. That 70s show and then RoboCop. Yep.
Yeah.
Which are 2 different characters. And now add Dr. Crumble to this as a third character. Really like Kurtwood Smith. So we mentioned the movies directed.
Clea Duvall also is another one where I mainly know her from The Faculty, which is a movie that I love. She's one of the like 6 main characters. And then she was in this, and like I remember her popping
Better Call
up.
Saul. That's where I saw her in.
Clea Duvall.
Yeah,
who's she in Better Call Saul?
She played Chuck's doctor. It's
I don't remember her in that at all.
Small role, but yeah, she plays Chuck's doctor.
It's like, you know, I always will remember her. I'll immediately think of The Faculty when I see her, and then the other thing that I just like hadn't seen her in anything for a long time. And then when I saw Argo in the theater, she's one of the people who's like captured, like one of the prisoners or kidnappees.
Yeah.
In that movie.
But you look at her filmography. I mean, she was in Zodiac, 21 Grams, Better Call Saul, American Horror Story, The Handmaid's Tale with Elizabeth Moss. And she's just been like consistently working. She's just not the star of any of it, right?
Yeah. But I mean, suffice to say, shitload of recognizable faces in this movie.
Yeah, totally. So again, mentioned James Mangold. He directed this.
This is his third movie. He's got a crazy filmography. If you just look at like the good and the bad, I haven't seen the new Indiana Jones, but I was surprised to know that he directed that. He did obviously the Wolverine and Logan. 3:10 to Yuma, I think, and Walk the Line were the 2 first ones that I saw of his. I've still never seen Walk the Line.
Yeah, Walk the Line is really good. But then he does stuff like Night and Day.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Copland is one that I need to catch up on.
Copland is fucking great. I just rewatched that like a year or two ago. Love that movie.
I feel like I don't know. What's your opinions on James Mangold? I feel like he's a good visual director. I didn't love Logan, but
yeah,
I just rewatched it recently, coming off of Deadpool and Wolverine, and like there's things in there where like, man, he's like does some really, really cool stuff, and the direction of the movie is cool. I just don't know as far as like a writer, and we'll get into this with Girl Interrupted because he wrote this as well with some other people. I don't know if I love him as a writer necessarily, but I really do like the way he directs movies, the look that he gives them.
Yeah, I don't know. He is kind of all over the place because, like, just taking it kind of chronologically, the ones that we have written down here, I love Copland. That's another movie with, like, a great ensemble cast with just a ton.
Stallone, Keitel, De Niro, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then Identity is a movie that I loved when I first saw it, and on a rewatch, not too many years after, really didn't like anymore. It feels like one of those movies that was like, oh, that thing that Fight Club did, where it's like multiple personalities and you can trick the audience with it. We can do that too. And it's like an ensemble cast. It's like a mystery with a bunch of like killings at a hotel or something.
Mm-hmm. You skipped Kate and Leopold, which is not on our list, but a movie that came between Girl Interrupted and Identity. Kate and Leopold I saw because it was like, I want to say Hugh Jackman's like second or third movie after X-Men. So I wanted to, coming off of X-Men, loving him as Wolverine, I was like, gotta see everything. And it's like this like fantasy fairy tale story of like he's from like 19th century, like 17th century London, and gets pulled into the future or something. It's not a good.
See, I didn't write that one down because I didn't even know what that was. Like I recognized the title, but didn't know. Yeah. Otherwise, what
that's
it was.
What I'm saying. It's weird to go even like I haven't even seen Copland, but I kind of have an idea of what it is. To like Girl Interrupted and then Kate and Leopold. It's like those three things don't really go together, and it's interesting, I guess, to like mix it up. Like he doesn't have. He's
well,
not
even
stuck
Identity is
to one
kind
style.
of like a trashy horror movie, sort of. But then Walk the Line, I haven't seen, but the impression that I get is that people really like it. It's a well respected, like dramatic biopic movie, with. I guess a good lead performance. I would assume
both performances by
Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix and the girl we watched in Colonel Intense. So I cannot remember anyone's name today.
Reese Witherspoon. She's really good in it. I don't know. She might have won an award for that too. But that movie kind of set the tone for the early 2000s or the mid 2000s, late 2000s when there was like a bunch. I feel like even it continues today of like what the musical biopic is. I feel like Walk the Line kind of set that tone for it, for all the good and bad that has come after it. Walk the Line is good. And then he follows that with 3:10 to Yuma, which I remember really enjoying. I thought that was a really good I've weirdly bounced back and forth on 3:10 to Yuma. Like I loved it when I first saw it. I remember at one point I had I was getting rid of a lot of my DVDs in favor of Blu-ray. And I remember I had this stack of movies that I was like, maybe I'll get rid of these, but I'd like to watch them one more time just to see if it's worth hanging on to. And I remember watching 3:10 to Yuma and being like, not really liking it that much anymore. And then, not super long ago, Dax and I reviewed it for an episode of Triple Threat Theater. And I feel like I came around on it again. I don't think it's perfect, but I do think it's good. And then Night and Day is like complete throwaway blockbuster trash. Like, it's probably one of my least favorite Tom Cruise movies.
It's not good.
No.
Yeah.
And then the Wolverine, I quite liked for the, the Fox Marvel stuff. I really feel like if they had done a better version of the Silver Samurai in the final action scene, it would have been like, pretty
one of the best,
perfect for what it is, know. Mm-hmm. But then Logan, I don't know. A lot of people love it and it's good. I don't think it's great. For many reasons.
It's a well-made movie, and Hugh Jackman is really good in it. I think, obviously, the performance is what carries that movie, but yeah.
And then Ford v. Ferrari I really liked.
I haven't seen that one.
And then, Indiana Jones, I don't know. It's not great. Like, it's better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but that is not saying much. And
I know, like, when you say it's better than garbage, like, okay, does that make it good, or is it just... I don't know.
Yeah. This is a movie full of like questionable decisions and then full of things. It's just like, the world of comic books or comic book adaptations or anything, where it's like as soon as a woman takes a prominent role in something that they didn't have a prominent role in before, people start losing their fucking minds. And I feel like a lot of people felt that they were trying to, you know, replace Indiana Jones with a female character. And it's like all of a sudden people really gave a shit about Mutt, the Shia LaBeouf character, and we're like, well, why can't we bring him back? Why do we have to have her instead? And it's like, holy shit, guys, you've lost the plot. Like, the movie is just, it's not incredible.
So where do you land on James Mangold? It feels like he's got these ups and downs, but is anything there like really stand out where it's like, oh, I loved him as a director, or is it just like?
I mean, I think having not seen Walk the Line or Kate and Leopold, Copland is my favorite thing on the list. Easy. I did think Ford v Ferrari was very good, and I do like 3:10 to Yuma, and I like the Wolverine.
Yeah, he feels like more than a jobber, though, right? Like he's got talent.
It feels like he's, you know what? I have many times in the past called Ron Howard a jobber, and I feel like Ron Howard's a pretty big name, and he's made a lot of big movies, and I think he does have like one or two real standouts in his career, like Apollo 13 and for me personally, Ed TV. But like, you know, he did all of those Angels and Demons movies based on the books with Tom Hanks in them, and it's just like those are just real kind of, they're well polished, but like kind of generic, blah, mainstream blockbustery movies. It's like he's like, Ron Howard to me is like a jobber who has tricked people into thinking that he's like this great filmmaker.
All right.
And I feel like James Mangold is kind of that.
Wow.
I feel like looking at his filmography and like kind of assessing my feelings on his work overall, it feels like he's a better than average jobber. Who every now and then has like a real win.
I wish I could disagree, it just, when you look at the filmography and you look at the actual work, and you know, you could say Logan is the standout because that got a lot of attention when it was out and made a lot of money. Walk the Line won Academy Awards. This movie won an Academy Award for performance, but I don't know. It's just it just feels like he knows where to put the camera. He knows his lenses. He knows some cinematography stuff, but it's just like, I don't know if you just kind of bring him in to do the work and not to be like super special.
I mean, that's kind of the thing with a jobber. Like to say that someone's a jobber doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. Like if nothing else, it means they're competent. And that like saying that someone is competent sounds like a negative or sounds like an insult. And, you know, I guess you could use it in that context, but it's like,
doesn't sound
he's
great.
Able to make a very accessible, entertaining movie that looks good and has like a good cast and good performances and whatnot. But it's like someone like a Steven Spielberg or a, you know, Christopher Nolan or whoever, Quentin Tarantino, like these people have like a style all their own, and you feel like the decisions that they are specifically making that not necessarily everybody else would make is the thing that like makes their movies, makes you either love or hate them. And it feels like James Mangold, I can't tell you what any like James Mangold stamp on a film would be. Like I can't pick out what are the James Mangold isms because his movies and his style is so like sort of generic. That doesn't mean he can't make something good. I feel like that just makes him a jobber instead of like an auteur.
Yeah.
You're looking better, Lisa. Oh, wait, thanks, Margie. How's the engagement going?
Well, you know.
No, I don't. I've been away.
Joe wants me to, before the wedding.
Fuck his brains out. Use a rubber.
Gosh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going to agree. I agree with everything you just said. I have no argument for it whatsoever. All right. So the movie's written by James Mangold, Lisa Loomer, and Anna Hamilton Phelan. I didn't really get any credits for them. It's based off the 1993 memoir, Girl Interrupted, by Susanna Kazin. We've got Winona Ryder playing the lead role. We've got Angelina Jolie playing Lisa. We mentioned some of these people. Clea Duvall playing Georgina, who's a habitual liar or a chronic liar. I can't remember the word they used for it. Brittany Murphy plays Daisy. I'm a fan of the little bit of work that Brittany Murphy really did, and it's too bad that she's gone. But, you know, I liked her in Clueless. I liked her in 8 Mile. She was really good in Sin City. It feels like whenever she pops up, she's really, really good. Elizabeth Moss was Torch. We mentioned Jared Leto as Toby Jacobs, draft dodger.
Who really only has 2 scenes in the movie.
Yeah. Whoopi, I think, was the big surprise for me. Like, I had no idea she was in this movie. And then Vanessa Redgrave as Dr. Sonia Wick,
who also really only has like 2 scenes in the movie.
Yeah, and I remember her from that first Mission Impossible movie. She plays, I can't remember the character's name. Yeah, she's the one that kind of is running the whole thing that Tom Cruise has to like.
She's trying to buy the knock list.
That's right. It's good stuff. She's good. She brings an air to herself, like to the scene and to the part. You know, you believe her as like this doctor.
It's just interesting because she's supposed to be the one that's like running the place.
But you never see her? You
only see her twice. Like, you know, I mean, you don't honestly see Jeffrey Tambor that much. He's the other doctor that, I don't know. I guess I expected the movie to be more about like the attempt of the people at the hospital to fix or identify what's wrong with Winona Ryder or, you know, what she's going through. But it's definitely less of that and more about Winona Ryder kind of figuring it out on her own by way of her interactions with the other girls who are her peers in the facility.
Yeah.
Which is a good path to take to the story.
Kind of.
They were probably more interesting than like a bunch of scenes of the doctors, like,
sure,
you know, trying to figure out her issues in an office would have been.
The movie starts out in a way that I thought was going to be really interesting, where she kind of like talks about, I almost expected it to kind of go a little sci-fi, where she's like, we see her in the hospital.
Sci-fi.
Yeah, because she's talking about how like time is not linear and like how the way it was even edited, where she's like having a conversation, then all of a sudden she looks over and she's like in a different scene. And it's like, we kind of get a feel of her psychosis. And I thought it was really interesting, like a way of like framing it where we're kind of seeing everything through her perspective, where it's like she's here and then she's here and then she's here, and then that stuff just kind of goes away and it's like her and her buddies in the psych ward. And then it's hard not to compare it to like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which is just so much of a better movie than this movie is.
Yeah, I saw some other comparisons to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I have seen that movie. I probably saw it 20 plus years ago. So aside from, you know, big guy ripping that thing off the wall and throwing it through the window and everyone getting away,
yeah.
like I don't really remember a lot of the nuts and bolts of that movie personally.
That was different because like the nurse is like basically evil, and Jack Nicholson is basically playing like the Angelina Jolie character, who's like legit crazy and nuts and very rebellious. And so you see it from that perspective. It's just a better movie overall. But we then follow like Winona Ryder, and we see like she had a sexual relationship with her, was it her teacher? Like the older man, obviously it was
like the father of a girl she knew from school,
right,
or something. Like family friends.
Yeah, which is obviously will cause psychological damage. And then she tries to kill herself by taking those pills and stuff. And then they mentioned like she felt like she had no bones in her hands and things like some weird things like that. But then after that, like once she gets into the hospital, she never really feels like she needs to be there. Where everyone else at least has some sort of issue that they're working with, Winona Ryder is just kind of sad and like a little lost.
Well, I mean, they say that she has borderline personality disorder, but for all intents and purposes, she's suffering from depression. And I mean, for you to be like, she just seems sad. I mean, like, yeah. I mean, you know, when you consider that she's surrounded by tropes, you've got one's a chronic liar. One is like, I wouldn't say pyromaniac, but you know, she has like the mind of a child and she burned herself on purpose when she was a kid. One is like a complete like loony bird who's like over the top. She's like the Tyler Durden to Winona Ryder's, you know, Jack in Fight Club with Angelina Jolie. And you have a girl who's like bulimic and a girl who's anorexic and then the one girl who barely speaks and she's really fat. It's like she's surrounded by all these stereotypes. Of course, she's like the most quote unquote normal.
Yeah. I'm not saying like depression means nothing and she should just get over it at all, right? Like, who am I?
I can't wait to grab that soundbite. Put it on Instagram.
to put that out there at all. But this is a movie, right? Like we need stuff to like really draw us in. And maybe she's just our way into this hospital, I guess. But it felt like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Her story was just kind of boring. Like I just wasn't as invested in Winona Ryder as I was like Angelina Jolie or even like Georgina or you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, I got to disagree with you there. It kind of goes to what I was saying before. Like the other way you could have gone with this movie is they could have made it about her disease and it trying to be cured by the doctors. Yeah. And that's not what this movie is. And I think that's good.
Yes,
it's like
I agree.
Her being put into this situation where she's around all these other people. And then instead of focusing on, the attempt to cure, focusing more on like the group dynamics and what it's like to be in that situation and part of that group of people and like her own potential path to bettering herself or whatever. Like, I don't know. It's one of these things where it's like hard to grapple with because I don't know a ton about the real story. I haven't read the memoir, but I did watch a little bit of the special features on the Blu-ray copy that I have. And I guess so. Winona Ryder had read the book and wanted to be attached to the movie. I guess somebody had written a script for it, and then like Winona Ryder didn't like it, and like a couple of other people took passes at the script, and she didn't like it. And then James Mangold came on, and they finally like worked out a version that they thought was like filmable and would be good, and that's what we ended up with. But then the original writer who experienced the things that for real that the movie's based on, Susanna Kaysen, I guess she does appear in the special feature and doesn't seem like perturbed or anything, but I did read a quote from her where she kind of bashed the screenplay because she said that James Mangold added a bunch of melodramatic stuff like Winona Ryder and Angelina Jolie like escaping and running away and meeting back up with Brittany Murphy's character, which to me is like the turning point of the movie for her like kind of character arc and realizing like, no, maybe I really do need to be in this place and focusing on how to get better. But then I'm like, if they added that and the original writer doesn't like that part, like what is the story of the book and is there a turning point and what is it? Like, it sounds like they Hollywooded it up a bit, but
this is kind of what separates certain, like maybe this book wasn't filmable the way it was written.
That was how Winona Ryder described it, which watching the movie, I don't know how much they changed. I found it a little tough to understand how you could consider it unfilmable because I thought that they did a pretty good job of it. But again, I don't know how much they changed. And I only saw that one quote referencing that one plot point. It's a pretty major plot point in the movie, but it's not nearly the, whole runtime or anything.
Sure. Yeah, I actually have the quote. They was doing a showing and a reading of the book, and she said her opinion in the film. She opened the discussion with a blunt but sincere answer to the question that was on everyone's mind, and it was, I really hate that movie. She said, describing it as melodramatic drivel. So, I don't know, like...
Yeah, that's weird because like I say, in the special features, she seems like she doesn't seem annoyed or upset to be talking about it. It's not like this hour-long, like, super involved, like, making-of documentary. It was maybe like a 12-minute featurette, but, like, reading that quote and then seeing and hearing her in the featurette interview, it didn't feel like the same person or something. Maybe she has multiple personalities.
Well, okay, so then I found this other quote from a blog who compared the book to the movie. Michael McCara on his blog wrote, in the film, it hardly seems that Susanna is crazy. Instead, we simply learn that she had attempted suicide, having taken 50 aspirin and subsequently having her stomach pumped. In the book, Susanna describes her symptoms as severe enough to impair her perception of reality. She contemplates her hands and anxiously considers if they might have bones in them. She endeavors to find out by cutting herself. The real Susanna was not merely an entitled, privileged girl who made a modest attempt at suicide as in the film. Rather, she was a girl who was indeed mentally ill, perhaps bordering on psychotic if one considers the hallucinations she describes. So it feels like they kind of neutered her a little bit, where it feels like, again, I don't want to take away from depression or any of the things that she was feeling, but if you're going to make this your main character, I wish she had more of an arc. It doesn't even feel like she goes on an arc. If you're going to take it and Hollywood it up, right? Like if you're going to try to make it accessible for whatever their goal was, I feel like she's underwritten. Am I wrong?
I mean, I got to be honest, watching the movie, not really knowing a lot about it, because like I said, I didn't even realize what the movie was as I was sitting down to watch it.
Yeah.
I never felt that while watching it. Like, it makes me question it, hearing you now like say that about the actual story.
And I didn't know this until after I watched the movie. So my feelings aren't necessarily like, oh, the book said this, so it should be this. But as I was watching the movie, I just never really felt that interested in what her was going through and the things that she was feeling, or even like understanding the things that she was troubled. I think maybe some of it plays a part in the fact that this was like the 60s and she's a woman. So there's already a lot of other baggage that she already has to carry. Right. Like, and maybe that from my perspective is discounting the things that she was actually having to go through in the movie. But everyone else just felt like maybe cardboard cutouts, but at least something was going on. I think actually Brittany Murphy felt like the most real person in this movie. I was really drawn to her character and the things that she was going through.
And I think you want to poop, Daisy. I think it's been days.
It's okay. I don't care.
I do care. So, Daddy buys you a private, no one gets in, huh? You never leave, except for when Valerie makes you go to the cafeteria where, you never eat. You're a laxative junkie, so I always thought you were like Janet, but then here you are with this fucking chicken. So, what's with that, huh?
My dad owns a deli, asshole, with a rotisserie. I like my dad's chicken, and when I eat something else, I puke.
But why do you eat it here? Why don't you like to go to the cafeteria?
Which do you like better? Taking a dump alone or with Valerie watching?
Alone.
Everyone likes to be alone when it comes out. I like to be alone when it goes in. To me, the cafeteria is like being with 20 girls all at once taking a dump.
That is fucked up, Daisy.
Because I don't know.
Well, like I said, I never felt that way. Like, I found myself invested and interested and like gripped by everything that was happening the whole time. I never once had a feeling akin to like, she's like Winona Ryder's not interesting enough or she's not troubled enough. I mean, she did attempt suicide. I guess that was enough for me to be like, okay, this person needs help.
Yeah, for sure. She definitely needed help. Yeah. But, and she was there voluntarily, right? Like they do make that clear. Like, unlike some of the other patients, she checked herself in. But, again, it's like hearing that after the fact makes me now question. I'd maybe have to ponder it a bit, but I didn't feel like there was a deficit as far as her character when I watched the movie. Well, that's all you can go by.
Yeah.
One thing I did enjoy that kind of goes against like the Cuckoo's Nest, and this is written in the story of Cuckoo's Nest, so it makes sense. It's all part of why what's happening in the story with the nurse and everything, is that the people that worked there actually felt like they were trying to help. You know what I mean? They weren't evil doctors. They weren't like trying to keep them drugged up and like sedated. There's a little bit of that at first with the lady that gives them drugs.
I mean, anytime she tries to give someone drugs and it only happens like 2-3 times. But like even the last day when Winona Ryder's being released, they've decided that she's better. And then they're giving her pills and she's like, well, do I really need these? I'm getting out tomorrow. And I think the woman still says like, are we going to have a problem?
Right.
Like, I feel like that's just, if you're in that environment,
Yes.
like those people are constantly going to be not wanting to take the medicine. So you
Yes.
just have to take this stance of like,
For sure.
no, you're going to follow the rules.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is I feel like they weren't evil characters. It wasn't like the orderlies and the nurses versus the patients, what I feel like is a very easy to go to trope. Like I really enjoyed Whoopi Goldberg because she felt like she cared. She really cared about the girls that were there. And I really enjoyed that. I'm just saying that was an aspect that I feel like, oh, they could have leaned into that, or they could have really pushed that, which I feel like is something that is an overused trope, and it doesn't go there at all.
Yeah, I think the worst example, or like the most extreme example of that in the movie is when it's like during a montage, and it's Winona Ryder's like laying on the couch and like in one of her therapy sessions or whatever, and it pans over to Jeffrey Tambor as the doctor, and he's like falling asleep in the middle of the session.
Yeah. That's just incompetence more than like a person that's like evil. You know what I mean? He's just taking advantage of people with conditions. So yeah, that feels a little bit different. But what do you think about Angelina Jolie? We haven't even mentioned her, and she was, the breakout star of this movie. What was your thoughts on old Angelina?
I thought she was good. She's also kind of a trope of a character.
Yeah.
If anything else, like, she won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress, but like, if I were comparing the two, I thought that Winona Ryder was better, maybe because she was more subtle. Like Angelina Jolie at times did just kind of feel over the top.
Yes.
I mean, I said it already, but she felt like the Tyler Durden of the movie.
Yeah.
And I guess if, like, I'm not sure how much Angelina Jolie had done before this, obviously, like Gia and Hackers, but I'm not sure how big of a name she was. Like, if she was getting leading roles and stuff, I guess this would have been a year or two before Gone in 60 Seconds, which I feel like was kind of a big one for her.
This was her breakout, because before this, you talk about like Gia, that was like a the HBO movie.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a huge movie, that it was totally like a cult thing. And you look at like she was in Hackers, but she's not like a big star and that kind of stuff. And you just look through her filmography. It isn't until this year when she has Pushington, The Bone Collector, and Go Interrupted, and then follows that with Gone in 60 Seconds and Laura Croft, that she becomes like, a huge A-list star.
So I imagine, this being a relatively high-profile movie and her putting in that performance, for a lot of people who hadn't seen her or were just like, wow, the girl from Hackers can act or whatever. Like, it's the kind of thing where if she had this role, 5-10 years later in her career, would she have gotten the award for it, or was it more just because it was like a surprise,
a breakout? Yeah.
Not that I want to take anything away from her, like I don't think she was bad, but I mean there were times where she just felt so like, I've seen that kind of character a billion times before. She's just like she's like so perfect in her like weirdness, or her alternative nature.
It's that beautiful weirdness, right? You can't really do anything because she's Angelina Jolie, but like she kind of gives herself this like stupid haircut, trying to make herself, I don't know, look crazy or ugly or something like that, but she's still Angelina Jolie's. So it almost feels like a job in that way, where it's like,
and it's like, her first real interaction with Winona Ryder after she comes in and like screams at her in her room, they're in the shared space. And she like saunters over, grabs a chair, turns it around, and sits on it backwards, and like is just like looking her over. Hey, can I bum one of those cigarettes? I don't know. I did not feel like she was the standout performance of the movie, especially even when you get to the end of the movie, and like, again, I would love to know how much, I'm assuming all of this was fabricated for the film to have the climax when she steals the Winona Ryder's like little notebook, and they're down in the sub basement, and she's reading it, and she's calling herself the villain. Like, it seemed like something that belonged in a superhero movie.
Yeah.
And then like she's freaking out and egging on Winona Ryder, and then Winona Ryder just has to say one sentence, and it crushes Angelina Jolie and turns this normally like strong person into like just a sobbing ball of nerves. just because she says to her, "You were already dead," as though it was like some cathartic moment. The whole
Right.
thing was really corny, I thought.
Yeah, it was super corny. That was not in the book. That stuff didn't happen. That was all fabricated. And it felt like the most like Hollywood is that stuff. It just doesn't feel like real. They no longer feel like real people, and they were kind of not already feeling like
it
real
felt
people.
very operatic, just like them being in the basement with like the minimal lighting, and it's like industrial looking, and Winona Ryder accidentally gets her hand smashed in the door.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Angelina Jolie's running around with that syringe.
Right.
She's going to attack somebody.
They needed to end their movie, and they didn't know how, and they didn't have confidence in her bettering herself, so they had to add some sort of drama, I guess.
They had to have a climax.
Yeah, which the movie doesn't really need, I guess. I don't know. Like,
yeah.
Or something a little bit more subtle, not so obvious.
Mm-hmm.
The movie actually opens with that scene, right? And then it's her like thinking back on what is happening. Which again, I felt like with the editing in the beginning of the movie would have played more of a part as she's like going through the stuff. Like, even if it's not a sci-fi thing, but just the way it was edited to where it's like, let's feel some of that craziness that she's talking about of like, where am I? And like, wait, they kind of do it with her like sleeping a little bit, but it's not, I don't know. It's like half-assed. I don't know. That's just kind of how I feel about
I'll be
that.
honest, during the climax, my main focus was I was concerned about the cat. I was like, please don't kill the fucking cat.
The star of the show is the cat, man. I love that cat. That cat was awesome looking. The gray and the giant eyes, and didn't like Angelina Jolie.
I was seriously just worried the whole time. Like, please don't kill the cat. You, you psycho.
Sets the cat on fire or something. Oh boy. Anybody that you really thought was the MVP of the movie, if it wasn't Angelina Jolie? Was it Winona Ryder? Or
I would say personally it's Winona Ryder. I also did really like Whoopi Goldberg, but I mean her character is written to be like, how can you not
super
like
likable.
her?
Right.
It's so weird. Like, I don't know. I watch a fuckload of movies. I have a movie room that I've built in my house that has over 3,000 Blu-rays in it, and I'm not sure sometimes if I'm just hyper aware of tropes and things because I watch so many movies, but like between Angelina Jolie's character feeling very much like a dozen other characters I've seen in other movies, I feel like Whoopi Goldberg, as much as I liked her in this and she was really likable in it, it just feels like such a written trope of a character. Like at the same time, it feels almost like a cheat that she's written to be so nice and perfect, and she like only gets mildly upset right at the times that she needs to get a point across. And
I would say that's the problem for the entire movie, though. Like, I feels like every character is kind of like that, where they're written to fit a role. I don't know if they necessarily feel like real people. I think Whoopi does a good job with what she's given. And I think the 90s was the height of it. Like, I don't even know if she's acted past that, but like she was like in Ghost and Sister Act and now this. And it feels like she has that charisma that I don't know if she has anymore. It was weird that Winona Ryder got racist like right there in the middle of the movie as well.
I mean, I'm not sure if that was supposed to be like, this is the era it takes place in. Like, she would say those things. Obviously, she was doing it on purpose to try and push Whoopi Goldberg's buttons because her character is so unfazable.
Sure. Like,
she was trying to phase her. But I did also think it was weird that for one scene, they were just like, all right, this is the racist scene.
Yeah. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, I thought everyone was pretty good. Like, a lot of the girls, like Clea Duvall, I expected her to be in it a lot more because she's Winona Ryder's roommate, but she really does not have a lot to do. Like, they tell you that she's a chronic liar, and there's like 2 or 3 times where she says something that you're probably supposed to be like, yeah, she's lying.
We were just reading your book. We figured since it's your last night, we'd have a little salon, little read aloud, celebrate all the wisdom you're carrying into the world. Well, try to learn something, grow as people. We read how when you were a baby, they strapped you to a board, and how you think Georgina doesn't really want to leave and Polly never will, and that I'm criminally insane.
What are you guys doing here?
Lisa's eyes, once so magnetic, now just look empty.
Lisa, that is mine. That is mine.
Georgina. Oh, Georgina lies only to people who keep her here. Sometimes I think she wants to live in Oz forever. How perceptive.
You better erase that
Gina,
thing. You better erase it! Because my father is the head of the CIA, and he could have you dead in minutes!
In this world, looks are everything.
God.
Sometimes I think Polly's sweetness and purity aren't genuine at all, but a desperate attempt to make it easier for us to look at her. So nice of you to pass judgment on us now that you're pure.
What the fuck are you doing?
I'm playing the villain, baby, just like you want.
Like when she tells the story of how Torch burned herself.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's true, so maybe we don't know how it actually happened, but...
No, I'm pretty sure that was supposed to be a lie. Like,
It's
when
like
she
Clea
tells us,
Duvall
she's like,
only really has like 4 lines in the movie or something where like you're even supposed to perceive that she could be lying.
but they're so innocuous too. Like, it's not like lies that are like going to affect the story at all.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It's weird. Like and maybe this is again, try to write it. If you're not going to follow the book precisely, then if you're going to pick up a gun, fire it, right? Like if she's going to be a liar and you're going to establish it, maybe have it affect the story or do something.
There is
I don't
that
know.
line at the end when Angelina Jolie's reading from Winona Ryder's journal and she's like saying out loud all of Winona's opinions on the other girls and their problems. And I believe she says about Clea Duvall's character, like she only lies to the staff because she doesn't want to leave and she wants to give them like an excuse to keep her there.
Sure.
So but like that's only Winona Ryder's opinion. Maybe it's not true. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like the performances were good with what they were given. I just don't know if what they were given was up to what they were performing.
I mean, can we go back to that conversation about James Mangold? Like, I think what we're kind of coming to here is that everything in the movie is perfectly good. Like, it's a completely watchable, in my experience, like, entertaining and never boring movie with good performances that maybe aren't great because maybe they aren't written the best, but, like, it's a really satisfying little package that upon a tiny bit of dissection is just not mind-blowing. I mean,
you just described
James Mangold movie.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the box office. The budget was $40 million for this. I imagine Winona Ryder got paid pretty decently for this.
Yeah, I guess.
Because I don't know where that $40 million went. The movie looks fine, but...
I mean, Whoopi was an established actress in a relatively important role in the movie. I don't know. Vanessa Redgrave is like a name, but I'm not sure if she's like demanding big bucks. Again, Angelina Jolie, was she at a point in her career where she got a decent paycheck for this? Or was this the movie that meant that later she would get decent paychecks from other movies?
Yeah, this gets her the Lara Croft money for sure. Yeah. So it had a budget of $40 million. The box office was only $48 million. So in actuality, it probably lost money because that $40 million, we don't know if that includes like, marketing and all that kind of stuff. So
probably not.
If anything, it broke even, but it probably lost a couple bucks. It opened in 9 theaters Christmas weekend to $95,000. So not a big opening, but then it opened wide.
Is a movie about people with like personality disorders being locked in like a mental facility what you really want to be releasing at Christmas time?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this was just poorly planned or if they were just trying to get it out before the end of the year. I don't know, because then it opened wide 2 weeks later at 1900
I mean, that reeks
theaters.
of we just want to get it out for Oscar contention,
Yes.
but logically it doesn't make the most sense to release it then.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
But it did win an Oscar, so I guess it
worked. They did its job. It opened wide in 1900 theaters January 14th to $8 million in 4th place behind Next Friday, which opened that weekend. Stuart Little, which was in its 5th weekend, and The Hurricane, which was in its 3rd weekend. So people didn't really rush out to go see this. Instead, they went and saw Stuart Little for the 5th time.
I mean, that only makes sense.
Sure, for sure. It dropped 47% the following week, falling to 7th place. Stayed wide until the 2nd week in February. It left theaters in the beginning of March, and then I don't know why, but it returned to 200 theaters for 2 weeks at the end of April.
Oscar bump.
Yep, that's what I was thinking. probably just give it a little bit of an Oscar bump right before.
Yeah,
or right
because
after
all
Oscars.
the people that didn't see it are like, oh, who's this Angelina Jolie that apparently was good in this movie? So they toss it back out in theaters to get a couple more bucks. Happens all the time.
For sure. So not big as far as financially rewarding, but as far as reviews go, it's got a 53% on Rotten Tomatoes. So I think
right
that's
down the middle.
Technically rotten. I don't know. Roger Ebert. Although there are individual scenes of powerful acting, there doesn't seem to be a destination. That's why the conclusion is so unsatisfying. 2.5 out of 4 stars. I'm right there with Raj. Like, people are good, but it doesn't really know what it's trying to do, and it just kind of ends. Like, yeah, I feel like Roger Ebert said it better than I ever could. Wesley Morris of the San Francisco Examiner said, in Winona Ryder's case, Girl Interrupted is a showcase in which her brittle, angry portrait shows she has graduated from ingenue to actress. So,
man, I wish I could remember the exact line, but at some point in the beginning of the movie, I think in her like inner dialogue, her narration, she makes a comment about stealing something when you like people who steal things when they don't need to or something.
That's funny.
Do you remember that line?
I don't know.
She says something like that. I forget if it's like when she goes into the mental hospital or not, but then like when she said it in the movie, I was just like, oh, well, got arrested for shoplifting like 15 years after this. Like, what gives? And the other I
think it was like 5 years after this.
Was it?
Pretty soon after this, yeah.
And the other kind of, I wish I could remember that exact line, but the other thing that I was thinking about as I was watching it is, Angelina Jolie, she's playing a character in like this asylum or whatever. And at one point she mentions that they gave her shock treatment and she looks like all disheveled.
Yeah.
And then some number of years after this, she made the movie Changeling. Have you ever seen that?
I haven't. Is that the one where she like loses her kid or something?
It's been a while since I've watched it, so I don't remember the exact ins and outs, but it's like her kid disappears and is replaced by another kid, and she is like, this isn't my child, but everybody else is telling her it is. I don't even remember if it is or isn't, because I haven't seen the movie in so long, but it's a case that movie takes place even earlier than the 60s. And it's one of those cases of like, this woman is just like, there's something wrong with her brain. So they send her to an asylum and they like give her shock treatment. And I was just like, oh, that's some kind of coincidence. I don't know if it's interesting or not, but Angelina Jolie like plays the crazy young wild girl who gets shock treatment. And then later on in her like more modest, like film actor years plays a woman who that happens to again. I remember parts of that movie being hard to watch because of that. That's just one of those things. Like even in this movie, when Winona Ryder, it's weird to me. They like send her to the asylum. She gets there and they're like, "Well, you're 18, so you have to sign this. Like your parents don't have to, to be here." And then later she's like, "Well, I signed myself in. I can sign myself out." And they're like, "Well, no. Now that you signed yourself in, you don't get to choose." And just that feeling of like being stuck there and not having the decision, and you like have to do what the doctors say, and they like give you the pills and you have to take them. Like that is a kind of a stressor or a trigger for me. And that idea of just like, well, whether or not what you're saying is true, you're ranting and raving, so we're going to take you and zap your fucking brain with diodes.
Oh boy. Yeah.
It's
awful.
It's tough.
It is tough. All right. Manuel Levy of Variety said, unevenly structured and directed, its sensibility only one notch above that of a Lifetime telepic. Ooh, that's
burn.
rough. C+. Not a fan. From Variety. Jonathan Foreman of the New York Post said, it's an odd mixture of unsentimental, darkly humorous take on mental illness with the usual Hollywood loony bin cliches. 2.5 out of 4 stars. I feel like most of these are kind of on points of how I feel about the movie. And then Tom Coates of BBC.com said, you're left wishing the film had a little more faith in its audience. for then this well put together movie, there you go, James Mangold, might have provoked more thought and slightly less irritation. 3 out of 5 stars. It's just like an average movie. It's kind of like, it has some good performances. I feel like we've been saying this the entire time. It's crazy how on point the conversation about James Mangold feels throughout this entire show, but it really feels like that's what this movie is. It's just like, yeah, it's fine. It's not offensive. It's not daring. It's not truly trying to even say anything. And I think that maybe play into the part of why the author might not really like it either. It's like, it's fine. It's just cookie cutter, if anything.
It's just funny that if you had not posed that question to me at the beginning of the show and then we dissected James Mangold's career for 10 minutes, I would still be like, in my mind, he's like an above average director. Like when I hear his name, I'm like, ooh, cool, James Mangold. And now I feel like I will never feel that way again because of the conversation we had, 45 minutes ago.
Yeah. Awards, we mentioned this before, had 1 Academy Award, only 1 nomination, and it won for Best Supporting Actress. That was for Angelina Jolie. She was up against Toni Collette for The Sixth Sense, Catherine Keener for being John Malkovich, Samantha Morton for Sweet and Lowdown. No idea what that is. Oh, it's a Woody Allen picture. And then Chloe Sevigny for the movie you wanted to watch, Boys Don't Cry.
Oh. Yeah, it's so funny. When I realized, I'm confusing this with Boys Don't Cry, and then I looked that movie up and I was like, oh shit, well that was 99 too. I could have picked that for the show. Which I thought I had.
That's hilarious. Any thoughts as far as like those that were nominated? Do you feel like she was deserving, or maybe?
Well, I haven't seen Boys Don't Cry. I haven't seen Sweet and Lowdown. I like The Sixth Sense. I'll be honest, Toni Collette has never been like the memorable thing about that movie to me.
Sure.
I'd probably, if not Angelina Jolie, I would have probably given it to Catherine Keener for being John Malkovich.
She was so good in that movie. I love that movie, and she's great. I think I would too, because I just think it's a superior movie. I think Angelina Jolie is good in this movie, but it's just so over the top. It's too over the top. Whereas like Catherine
this movie really needed people to be able to go to the 13th floor of the asylum and then live inside of Angelina Jolie's brain.
Right. Oh boy, but Catherine Keener was so good in being John Malkovich, especially in that role that she was given. She is so good. So I would have
that movie's awesome.
As far as cultural impact, this obviously, and we kind of mentioned this already, Angelina's rise to stardom. This kind of began here in 1998, made for HBO. Gia won her a Golden Globe. In 99, she starred in, we mentioned this, Pushing Tin, The Bone Collector, and Girl Interrupted, and which the last one won her the Oscar. And then from there, her career just, explodes into stuff where whether or not the movies are any good, she becomes like an A-list top actor. The whole Brangelina thing. I don't even know if people like put celebrities' names together before that. I feel like that was the first time I ever heard people trying to like mash celebrity couples together up. But I don't know. Maybe it was happened before then. But she goes on to like be in a ton of stuff. The Lara Croft movies are not good.
They're fun, like 3 out of 5 star, just like stupid action movies.
Yeah.
They're not good,
Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow.
That was unfortunate on everybody's part.
Alexander.
I can't even remember if I saw that one or not. So many of those like period epics came out after Gladiator.
Yeah.
I know I saw 1 or 2. I think I saw Troy, but there's like Kingdom of Heaven and Alexander, and I think there's a King Arthur one.
Yeah.
I don't know which ones I've seen and which ones I haven't.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith. That was another really big movie.
Yeah, I didn't love that one. The one time I saw it, I'd like to rewatch it.
Beowulf, you remember that?
Unfortunately, yes.
Then you mentioned Changeling, and Wanted came out that year as well.
Wanted.
Changeling was
Clint Eastwood, I think, right? Yeah. Salt,
The Tourist. I remember all the jokes about The Tourist with her and Johnny Depp.
Yeah. That movie's not good.
Yeah, looking at Maleficent, I know my kids really like those movies.
She's a director now, too. She's made 1 or 2 movies. She did that one about, it's like the true story of, it's like an Olympic runner in World War I or II. I know, I saw it. Yeah.
Written by the Coen brothers, huh?
Oh,
interesting.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. She was in a movie we watched towards the end of Sidetracked, Those Who Wish Me Dead.
Yeah.
I liked her in that. That was good.
Yeah, I feel like, that's, what's his name? The guy who did Taylor
Sheridan, yeah.
Yeah, his movies that he wrote. Yeah, he directed that one too, I think. But it was like he had the 1, 2, 3 punch of Sicario, Hell or High Water, and Wind River, which I think all of those are amazing. Mm-hmm. And then that Angelina Jolie one feels like it's tacked on at the end, and it's just not as good as the other ones. I do like it, though.
Yeah, it was good.
Littlefinger running around, burning down the forest. Yeah,
it was good. And then she was in Eternals 2021, which was supposed to be like her big Marvel debut. That's not going anywhere. I like that movie.
I like it too.
It's underrated. I think people give it too hard of a time.
I mean, I think there's something to be said when the tone of voice you say that with is, I like it too, but I do like it.
There's just the caveat of like everyone shits on it because it's fun to shit on Marvel movies now. But I thought it did really, really cool things for a Marvel movie, and I thought it was interesting. I thought the cast, including her, were really good in it. So
I think it could have been a much bigger train wreck, and I thought that for all intents and purposes, I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah, talked about the author's notes about it. Not like in the movie. This was James Mangold's 3rd movie after Heavy and Copland. We mentioned that, and then we mentioned the differences.
Yeah, I don't know what Heavy is. I know it was his first movie, but in that featurette, Winona Ryder mentions that she hand chose him to take a stab at the script after seeing and liking the movie Heavy, whatever it is.
A 1995 American independent drama film written by him and directed, starring Liv Tyler, Pruitt Taylor Vince, Shelley Winters, and Deborah Harry. Plot focuses on an unhappy, overweight cook whose life is changed after an enchanting college dropout begins working as a waitress at his and his mother's roadside tavern.
So I guess, does that mean that Taylor Pruitt Vince is the lead?
Looks like it.
That's got to be the
he's the
only movie I'm aware of that he's the lead in. He's like a character actor mostly. You might remember him. Did you ever see the John Constantine movie with Keanu Reeves?
Years ago.
He's the guy he has that eye condition where his eyes twitch. I've seen him in a billion things. He's in Jacob's Ladder and just a ton of things.
He's going to be in Superman. He's Superman's dad in the new Superman movies.
Like Jor-El or
Jonathan Kent? He's Jonathan Kent. He's been in a ton of things, but he is apparently the lead of that movie, which is, again, 30 years ago now? Almost 30 years ago.
I'd kind of like to see that now.
Yeah. It's probably going to be pretty average.
Hey, that's better than a lot of movies.
Considering who made it. All right. Question, Ryan. Did you miss Boys Don't Cry? No, wrong movie. Wrong movie. The question is, Girl Interrupted. Did you miss it?
I'm going to give this an unenthusiastic yes, I did. I liked the movie. I found it enjoyable. It is a little cartoony and, tropey from time to time. It's not the most mind-blowing thing in the world. I probably wouldn't have given the Oscar to Angelina Jolie, but all in all, I liked it. The rating scale that we have on this show is basically thumbs up or thumbs down, and it's a thumbs up for me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would I have enjoyed Boys Don't Cry more? I don't know. That's
different show.
I may never know. But I liked this movie. I thought it was good. I think it was worth catching up with.
Yeah.
I mean, if nothing else, it made for an interesting conversation, and it recontextualized James Mangold's career for me. So that it's got that going for it.
For sure. I mean, is this thumbs up, thumbs down? Is this the most middle of the road thumb for me? I don't know, man. This is tough.
I said unenthusiastic.
It's hard for me to go thumbs up or even thumbs down. It's just right in the middle. But I have to make a choice. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna be the negative Nancy here. I'm gonna say no. I didn't miss Girl Interrupted. I feel like I could have skipped this one. It's not terrible. It's not the worst of 1999 by far. It's watchable. Some good performances, but I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right. That's not Boys Don't Cry, that's Girl Interrupted for Movies I Missed, 1999. All right. Come back for next episode where we are going to watch The Talented Mr. Ripley, starring Matt Damon, episode number 10, next week. Until then, Jesse Munoz.
Ryan Miller.
Movies I Missed. Come back for Talented Mr. Ripley.